Kwararafa Television.
Federal universities. Under the new remuneration package, laboratory hazard allowance for senior employees will increase by as much as 126,000 naira annually. The package takes effect retrospectively from January 1st, 2026. The approval was conveyed in a circular issued by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission dated July 20th, 2026, following the agreement reached between the federal government and NASU on June 29th, 2026, which was exclusively obtained by journalists in Abuja. The circular signed by the acting secretary of the commission, the Hyogu Chiadi, was addressed to the chief of staff, to the president, secretary to government of the federation, head of the civil service of the federation, ministers, permanent secretaries, heads of government agencies, and other senior public officials. It stated that the federal government had approved the payment of the consolidated non-teaching tools allowance and reviewed earned allowances for eligible non-teaching staff in federal universities. The House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the controversial establishment and operations of the Presidential Foreign Investment Ogunjimi today, as its high-profile investigation enters the third week. The committee, chaired by the lawmaker representing Kanke Kanam Pangshin Federal Constituency of Plateau State, Yusuf Gabdi, is probing how an organization the federal government has described as non-existent allegedly secured official office accommodation within the Federal Secretariat complex in Abuja and received a budgetary allocation of more than 1.32 billion in the 2026 Appropriation Act. The investigation has drawn significant public attention following allegations that the agency operated within government structures despite lacking legal recognition, raising concerns about possible lapses in public financial management and institutional oversight. As today's hearing, Ogunjimi is expected to explain the processes through which the PFIPC obtained a government budget code, a development that enabled the agency to appear in the national budget despite questions surrounding its legal status, into the budgetary and financial procedures that facilitated the agency's inclusion in the federal government's expenditure framework. The amount exceeds the combined allocation to 7 key federal ministries. In its analysis of the 2026 federal government budget, Tracker said the allocation comprised 15.13 billion naira for the procurement of 39 swives and 947.70 billion naira for 2,579 empowerment projects, bringing the total to 962.33 billion naira. The civic organization noted that the amount surpassed the combined 960.27 billion naira appropriated to the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Housing and Urban Development, Women Affairs, Justice, Livestock Development, Aviation and Aerospace Development, and Petroleum Resources. Tracker expressed concern over what it described as a lack of transparency surrounding many of the empowerment projects. A management official of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery says the company reverted to the sale of petrol in Naira because importers were allegedly holding back their stocks. The official pleaded for anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the media, says the refinery decision to halt dollar-denominated fuel sales was not because the issue of crude oil shortage had been resolved. It said the reversal was taken in the interest of the country to prevent fuel scarcity and further increases in petrol prices. According to him, the importers were deliberately holding back their stocks in anticipation of higher fuel prices. The Dangote refinery recently resumed the sale of petrol in Naira, ending its brief dollar-denominated pricing regime. Retired Nigerian Army generals have welcomed President Bola Tinubu's approval for the expansion of the Nigeria Army from 8 to 12 divisions and the recruitment of 28,000 additional personnel. They described the move as a strategic step that will strengthen national security and improve military operations. The retired officers who spoke in separate interviews said the decision would enhance the Army's operational effectiveness, reduce unemployment, and improve the country's response to insecurity. President Tinubu had on July 24th approved the establishment of 4 new divisional headquarters in Makurdi, Ilorin, Jalingo, and Benin City as part of reforms aimed at strengthening the Army's operational capacity. Speaking on the development, Brigadier General George MD, retired, said the increase in troop strength was a welcome initiative that will help address the country's security challenges. You're live with us in Jalingo, Kwararafa News. We'll be back in no distant time. Stay with us.
This is Kwararafa Television.
You're welcome back. Kwararafa Television News at noon continues. Official figures from the Democratic Republic of Congo released shows that the number of confirmed Ebola cases has surpassed 3,000. It said this includes 1,354 deaths and 556 recoveries, while 755 patients remain in hospital or in isolation. These updated figures comes just 3 days after officials reported more than 1,000 deaths from the outbreak, which has now spread to 5 provinces. The unprecedented rate at which cases are increasing and deaths are mounting has made it the fastest spreading epidemic ever documented. Halting the spread is complicated by the fact that the outbreak is unfolding in the eastern part of the country, which is in the midst of an armed conflict. Meanwhile, around 100 health workers at a treatment center in near the epicenter of the outbreak have gone on strike over unpaid performances bonuses, disrupting care for patients. The epidemic is caused by the Bundibugyo strain of the hemorrhagic virus for which there is no vaccine or specific treatment as yet. Palestinian officials say Israeli settlers have set fire to two mosques as well as cars and agricultural land in the occupied West Bank as tensions in the territory continue to flare. The latest attacks come 2 days after a clash between settlers and Palestinians near the village of Tal, which left 4 Palestinians and 2 Israelis dead. Both sides accuse the other of provoking the violence. The confrontation has further inflamed the situation in the West Bank, which has seen growing violence by extremist settlers against Palestinians encouraged by far-right elements in the current Israeli government. Palestinian report says that 2 villages in the occupied West Bank came under attack from settlers overnight, with cars vandalized, properties stolen, and hate graffiti spray pointed on the walls. A man suspected of carrying out what authorities says was like an Islamist terror attack at Berlin Pride has been shot and killed by police. Officers opened fire when Abdul Balaut, a 21-year-old German citizen with Lebanese heritage, rushed at them with a knife in Spandau, a western borough of Berlin. It brought an end to a massive manhunt that was launched after a white van was driven into a crowd of people near Tegatin Park, killing 1 woman and injuring at least 29 others. Police say following the ramming, several people were injured in a stabbing attack. Police are still searching for a second suspect after 3 people were killed and 4 injured in a shooting at a Seattle center in the northwestern U.S. Gunshots rang out on Sunday as thousands of families were enjoying an annual food festival. Witnesses described running for cover, with some taking shelter inside Seattle's landmark Space Needle. 1 suspect was detained at the scene, while a second fled from officers, and search is ongoing to find them, according to the Assistant Chief of City Police, Tyrone Davis. Speaking to the media, Davis said the 2 suspects are believed to have been shooting at each other. 4 people, including 2-year-old boy, remain in hospital in a stable condition. Seattle Mayor Kathy Wilson described the incident as an unbelievable tragedy, an horrific act of violence, as she said more needs to be done to tackle gun violence in Seattle and the U.S. The Ukrainian president will become the prime minister's first international visitor since he took office a week ago, which Number 10 said illustrates the strength of the relationship between the two nations. They will visit a naval base where Buram will announce the sharing of the intellectual property behind the UK's new stone clock electronic warfare system, enabling Ukraine to produce the technology at scale. Buram says ahead of the visit that he was looking forward to it and that his support for Ukraine was unwavering. It is 100%. The stone clock jammers are the